Last fall, Daybreak embarked on a journey towards greater surrender and trust through acts of generosity. Guided by Romans 5:2, we made a call for all of us to be wide open to God and wide open to generosity. We believe generosity is not about what God wants from us, but what He has for us.
As we approach the halfway point of our 2-year Wide Open Generosity Initiative, we want to celebrate the amazing ways that God has changed people's lives this year. And we also want to humbly surrender our future to Him. 2020 has taught all of us to be reliant on God in new ways. And for us as a church, it's continued to sharpen our passion and our desire to make discipleship our #1 priority. That's why, first and foremost, Wide Open is a discipleship initiative, an opportunity for 100% of our Daybreak family, every adult, student, and child, to engage in hearing God's invitation to experience new freedom and surrender through generosity. Last year, 215 families or individuals made a 2-year generosity commitment to Wide Open. And in the last year, more than 90 families or individuals have given to God's work through Daybreak for the very first time. We're excited for you to hear how God has been at work in our lives through acts of generosity.
We want to invite everyone who calls Daybreak home to fully engage or fully re-engage in being wide open to God and to generosity this fall.
When the Wide Open Generosity Initiative kicked off, we had already been faithfully giving to Daybreak, but we weren't really trusting God's provision for what we were giving. We weren't necessarily giving out of abundance, but it didn't feel like a sacrifice either. And so the initiative really caused us to think about what we were giving and why, but also what we weren't giving.
We're excited to see how God has given us such generous hearts and the impact that we are having on our secondary goal of fully funding our mission and our vision through December of 2021. Last year, we set a pretty ambitious secondary goal of $6.25 million given over 2 years to a Wide Open One Fund. While we didn't quite hit that goal, the more than $4.8 million of committed and expected gifts over 2 years represents the most generous season in Daybreak's history. And what's even crazier is that through a global pandemic, arguably one of the worst case scenarios for a church, Daybreak's mission has continued to be fully funded. We're so grateful to be part of such a generous and committed church family on mission. This year, because of your generosity, not only did we survive the COVID-19 shutdown, we ministered strongly through it, pivoting to 100% virtual ministry for a season and blessing our church family and our community through significant COVID-19 responses. Your generosity funded the technology that made it possible to create so many meaningful discipleship environments, both online and in person. Because of your generosity, hundreds of families have been impacted by our small groups and spiritual formation ministries and community care ministries and our student and our kid ministries. And as we've returned this fall, your generosity has made it possible for us to welcome 2 new staff members to our team in preparation for the upcoming ministry year.
And at our new Orsbridge Road campus, your generosity has enabled us to not only purchase the property, but to demo and renovate the pre-existing building, as well as create the additions for the commons area and the entire new kid ministry wing as well. We're eagerly anticipating an end-of-year launch date at Orsbridge Road, and we can't wait to see what God's going to do through the ministry that's going to happen in that beautiful new facility. We're praying that God's going to allow us to disciple people who are hurting, people who are hungry, and people who need the life-giving touch of Jesus. And as if all of this wasn't enough, we've been able to make progress at Gettysburg Pike through eliminating a few of the barriers that we had to doing effective ministry at this campus. In 2020, we were able to replace the largest HVAC unit in the student building and create a few new additional environments that will help us have more comfortable and strategic spaces to accomplish ministry. And we're currently finalizing the rest of our plans for investment in our Gettysburg Pike campus next year. So as we head into year 2 of Wide Open, your continued generosity will allow us to not only fully fund our mission to help as many people as possible discover and deepen a life-changing relationship with Jesus, but it will also help us accomplish the God-given vision initiatives that support the mission and grow our desire to disciple people on the West Shore through multiple locations. Year 2's vision initiatives will allow us to continue to invest in 3 very strategic areas. Number 1, a welcoming and functional church home. Number 2, environments for the next generation. And number 3, environments that both bless and support our ministry to the community.
At this halfway point in our Wide Open journey, we'd like to ask something of you. Would you engage with God's generous heart and tune in to the voice of His Spirit and fully surrender to His leading? And as you do, we recognize that we are all in different places. For some of you, you just recently started attending, or maybe you just weren't engaged last fall when we went through Wide Open. And for you, this is an opportunity in year 2 of Wide Open to join the rest of us who have found such freedom through generosity by making a first-time Wide Open generosity commitment on Commitment Sunday, November 22nd.
We are now ready to go all in at daybreak. We're not sure what exactly that looks like at this point, but we know that we want to grow spiritually, and we know that we want to help others grow spiritually, specifically through the Wide Open Generosity Initiative. We don't know what the story is going to look like at this stage in our life. We look back and there's been an awful lot, but we are excited to know what God has in store for us and what that story is going to look like in the future.
Now, others of you have made a commitment a year ago. And for you, this Wide Open season has been a challenge. Maybe you went to a completely new level of generosity and you're still adjusting your life to it. Or maybe you've experienced a job loss or a job change or an unexpected financial expense. We want to encourage you to engage with the same heart and faith now that you did when you first made your commitment. Together, let's keep putting God first and trust Him with our lives. Let's make this season about trusting God to give us the inspiration and the faith to help us finish strong in this generosity commitment. Now, still others of you made your Wide Open generosity commitment over the past year, but you've had an increase in your faith, or you've had an increase in your finances. And maybe you will sense in this season that God is stretching you, that He's calling you to do more, to surrender more. And if that's you, we want to challenge you to respond to God's generosity by asking, is God inviting me to increase my commitment?
As you process how God is stirring in you, some questions we asked ourselves last fall may be helpful. Do I believe that when I give, God doesn't want something from me, but He has something for me? Am I giving in a way that challenges me? And am I wide open to whatever God wants to do in and through my life? Generosity is not a one-time event, it's a journey. So pray and ask God what He's inviting you to do. You know, we have so much to celebrate as a church family. These are the largest steps of faith through generosity that many of us have ever taken. We're overwhelmed and we're so grateful for what we see God doing in and through us as a church. And we look forward with anticipation to how God is inviting each of us to continue to sacrifice and stretch our faith so that others might experience a life-changing relationship with Jesus.